The story begins with danger and fear as the human space station K-17 comes under sudden attack. And the opening moments are full of noise, shaking metal, flashing red lights, and panic as enemy ships tear out of warp and surround the station like predators. Their weapons burning through space with cruel power, and Aaron Vale, a young human mechanic, feels the station tremble beneath his feet while alarms scream around him, because he knows the attackers are the Karun Dominion, an ancient alien empire feared across the galaxy. Famous for destroying worlds without mercy, and Aaron is not a soldier or a hero, but a simple worker who fixes engines and broken systems. Someone who has spent his life keeping old human machines alive with skill and patience, never expecting to face war directly. Yet now he runs through smoke-filled corridors as explosions rip apart docking bays and the ceiling cracks above him, showing how small and helpless one human feels when great forces collide. And as he turns into a maintenance corridor to escape the chaos, the lights die and only dim emergency strips glow along the floor, making the air feel heavy and closed, and just when he thinks he might hide, the metal wall bends inward with a terrible scream, and something massive forces its way through, revealing a giant dragon sister, a towering alien woman covered in shining scales, her wings burned, her body wounded, her presence terrifying and overwhelming. Because these dragon sisters are known as living weapons, leaders and killers of the Dominion, and every human story paints them as monsters, yet instead of attacking, this one stumbles and falls, bleeding and weak. And Aaron feels fear tighten his chest, but also sees pain and exhaustion in her glowing eyes. And against every instinct he has, he steps forward instead of running, because his nature is to fix what is broken, and he speaks to her with shaking words, offering help even though he knows she could kill him with one movement. And this moment shows the heart of humanity, choosing compassion even when death seems close. And the dragon sister, surprised and tired, drops her weapon and admits she is alone, her voice deep and heavy with years of war. And as explosions continue outside, she reveals her name, Galactic, and her rank as a sister commander, yet her title feels empty now, because her people are losing and their pride has led them to ruin. And then she speaks a strange, honest sentence that gives the title its meaning, confessing that she has lived through 16 months of silence, meaning not just physical loneliness but emotional emptiness, a life of command without warmth or connection. And Aaron does not fully understand her words, but he understands loneliness, because humans know what it is to be small in a vast and uncaring universe, and the two stand together in the failing station, enemies by birth but connected by pain and survival. And when Aaron offers his skills, saying he can try to fix something, anything, that might give them a chance, it becomes the turning point of the story, because this simple offer is the spark that will later change the fate of worlds. And Galactic studies him and chooses to trust him, bowing her head to a human mechanic, a powerful symbol that shows the beginning of respect between species. And as the station continues to die around them, the scene ends with a clear sense of danger, hope, and rising stakes, showing that humanity's strength does not come from size or power, but from courage, kindness, and the refusal to give up even when facing giants, setting the foundation for the battles and sacrifices that will follow. After the first encounter, the story moves into a tense and exciting phase where the focus shifts from survival to action, strategy, and the courage that defines humanity. As Aaron Vale begins to repair Galactic's massive alien ship hidden deep inside the ruined station, a vessel of incredible design that seems almost alive, grown rather than built, and completely unlike any human machine he has ever worked on, filled with alien circuits, strange alloys, and glowing conduits that pulse with energy, which makes the task almost impossible. Yet Aaron approaches it with the same determination and ingenuity that has kept human technology running in far harsher conditions, ripping out damaged components, rewiring circuits with human alloy wire, and ignoring warnings in 3 languages while sparks fly and the ship trembles as if aware of the work being done on it, while Jalix watches silently, a mixture of curiosity and disbelief on her massive scarred face, as she has not seen this kind of stubborn determination in 16 months, and she begins to feel hope stir inside her for the first time in years, realizing that humans, small and fragile as they appear, have a unique courage and ingenuity that even a dragon sister can admire. And as she watches, the galaxy outside is in chaos. Human fleets struggling against overwhelming numbers. 10 to 1 against them, colonies burning under Dominion bombardments, and battle cruisers tearing through space with no thought for their own destruction. Yet humans refuse to fall back, refusing to give up their homes and families even when facing certain death. And civilian freighters jump into the combat zone, unloading reactor cores as impromptu weapons, showing a daring and reckless bravery that shocks even Jalix. And she begins to understand what makes humanity remarkable, that the small and fragile can strike fear into the mighty with nothing but courage, determination, and willingness to risk everything. And Aaron, unaware of the full scope of the battle outside, keeps working with hands blackened with soot and sweat, joking quietly to himself about duct tape and human ingenuity, the simplicity of his language contrasting with the alien complexity of the ship. And when the engines roar back to life, it is not just a machine revived. It is a symbol of resistance, a new hope, a spark that can change the course of the war. And Jalix, feeling the power of the repaired ship, straightens to her full height, realizing that what should not be possible has become possible because of a human, because of one mechanic's determination, and she takes command, using the ship's weapons with precision, tearing through enemy formations with energy claws and plasma strikes, while Aaron stays at the side console, nervous but proud, knowing that he helped bring a living weapon back from the brink of destruction. And as the dragon sisters around the battlefield hear the roar of Jalix's ship, they hesitate, unsure whether to continue their assault or retreat, showing that the courage of humans can influence even the strongest of enemies. And the human fleets rally around her, damaged ships refusing to flee, forming lines of defense and offense, moving as one to strike at the heart of the Dominion. And Jalix realizes that humans fight not for glory or conquest but for each other, for their homes, their families, their people, and that their strength comes from unity, bravery, and an unbreakable will, something she has not seen in her people. And the battles rage through space with lasers and plasma tearing the void, debris of destroyed ships floating in trails of fire, the smell of burned metal seeming to reach even Jalix's nostrils. And humans and aliens collide in a deadly dance where death is always near. Yet humans adapt, improvise, and overcome, showing that even the smallest can be mighty. And every move of Aaron's hands in the engine room reflects this human spirit as he rewires systems, reroutes energy, and calibrates weapons that were thought lost, making the impossible possible. And all the while, Jalix begins to trust him, relying not only on his skill but on his courage, because she sees that this small being is willing to stand where others would fall. And she begins to feel a bond forming, a connection to a species she once considered weak, realizing that trust and courage are stronger than scales, claws, or lasers. And as the repaired ship blasts out of the station's remains, escaping the destruction behind them, the humans continue their desperate battle, forming shield walls, ramming enemy ships, and using their ingenuity to survive against overwhelming odds. And Jalix's voice cuts through the chaos over the ship's comms, giving orders that human pilots follow with precision because even in the heart of war, humans understand strategy, leadership, and sacrifice. And she begins to feel awe for them, a feeling long forgotten in her 16 months of silence. Because humans refuse to accept defeat even when surrounded, even when hopeless, and in that moment, as the combined force of humans and the single dragon sister moves like a living storm through enemy lines, it becomes clear that the fight is not only about survival, but about showing the galaxy that humanity, fragile and small though they may seem, will never yield, will never surrender, and will always rise to meet threats with courage, creativity, and heart, and the intensity of the battle. The heroism of ordinary humans, the roar of Jalex's ship, and the electricity of hope all combine to show that even in the darkest hour, the spark of human ingenuity and bravery can light the way, setting up the climax that will test all of them, for the Dominion has one weapon left, a planet killer that could wipe out Earth in an instant. And though the humans face the greatest challenge of their lives, they now have a new ally and a new understanding. And that is why Part 2 focuses not just on action, but on showing how humanity's determination, quick thinking, and bravery against impossible odds can change the tide of war. Teaching Jalex that even the smallest being can be a hero, and that together, humans and unlikely allies can confront even the deadliest threats in the galaxy with the repaired ship as a symbol of hope, ingenuity, and the human refusal to fall, laying the foundation for the final confrontation where courage, sacrifice, and heart will decide the fate of worlds. The final part of the story builds to a breathtaking climax, filled with high stakes, bravery, and the ultimate display of humanity's courage and ingenuity, as Jalex and Aaron face the greatest threat of all, a planet-killer weapon. A black, silent, and unstoppable machine heading straight for Earth, its core glowing with lethal energy capable of destroying an entire planet in moments. And as the human and allied fleets realize the scale of the danger, fear ripples through their ranks, yet they refuse to give in to despair, because they have seen what humans can do when pushed to the edge. And Aaron, sitting at the ship's console, feels the weight of the universe on his shoulders, knowing that failure here would mean the end of everything he has ever known, while Jalex, though a dragon sister and a creature of immense power, also recognizes that even she cannot stop this weapon alone. And for the first time, she relies completely on the ingenuity, bravery, and determination of a human, trusting him fully to do his part in the plan. And together they prepare for a desperate maneuver, realizing that only by combining Jalex's firepower and Aaron's precise modifications can they have any chance at stopping the planet killer. And as they approach the enemy core, tension fills the ship like a living thing, every vibration and sound magnified in the tiny human mechanic's ears. The battle outside reaching a fever pitch as human fleets form lines of defense and sacrifice themselves to delay the weapon, with damaged cruisers ramming into enemy ships, fighter squadrons weaving through deadly plasma streams, and civilian freighters acting as shield and weapon alike, each one giving their lives for a chance that the weapon can be stopped. And Jalex leans close to Aaron, her massive forehead almost touching his, speaking words of admiration and trust, telling him that humans always find ways to rise, to stand, to fight when they should fall. And this shared moment, simple yet profound, gives both of them strength and focus, reminding them why they fight, not just for survival, but for hope, connection, and the defense of everything they hold dear. And as the final approach begins, Jalex screams with all the fury and power of her kind, a sound that shakes the void, and the ship charges into the heart of the weapon's core, energy blazing from every weapon, shields glowing white-hot, and Aaron works frantically at the controls, rerouting power, synchronizing weapons, and calibrating engines, every movement precise, every second crucial, because failure is impossible and death certain. Yet they push forward without hesitation, embodying the human spirit in its purest form, facing the impossible with courage and resolve, and as the core ignites, the blast consumes the weapon, engulfing both the human-modified Dragon sister ship and the weapon in a storm of fire and energy. The light of the explosion stretching across the void like a new star, and when the brilliance fades, the planet killer is gone. And Earth is still turning, battered but alive, saved by the courage and ingenuity of humans working alongside an unexpected ally, Galactic, who survives against the odds, scarred but whole, her faith in humanity reaffirmed. And Aaron, exhausted but triumphant, feels the weight of their victory, knowing that the sacrifices made by countless human pilots and crews, each giving everything for a chance at survival, were not in vain. And as the fleets regroup and the Dominion retreats in fear and confusion, the galaxy begins to recognize the resilience, bravery, and heart of humanity, realizing that small, fragile as they may seem, humans possess a power that cannot be measured by scale or weaponry alone. And months later, Aaron stands on a rebuilt station, looking up at the stars, reflecting on the events that have changed the galaxy. And as a shadow passes over him, he sees Jalix land nearby, her wings folded, her body battered yet alive, and she tells him simply that she survived. A quiet acknowledgement of the bond forged through fire and fear, and in that moment, the story emphasizes that humanity's strength lies not in numbers or sheer power, but in courage, ingenuity, determination, and connection. That even in the face of overwhelming odds, humans rise to challenge the impossible, and that their spirit can inspire allies and shake enemies alike. And as Aaron and Jalix look at the stars together, it becomes clear that the war has changed both species, teaching lessons of trust, sacrifice, and resilience, and that the universe has learned that humans, though small and fragile, will always fight, adapt, and endure, leaving behind a legacy of hope, heroism, and the proof that courage and heart can overcome even the most terrifying of threats, and that the galaxy will never forget how a human mechanic and a dragon sister stood together to face annihilation, turning despair into triumph and proving that when humans refuse to break, they can change the fate of worlds.